Danny Mayberry. You're the host of 1 Mile, 1 Veteran. Now, how long have you been doing your podcast now?
So we started the podcast back in September is when we launched it.
Okay.
We started putting it together, the pieces, back in 2020, and then began promoting it and conducting interviews.
Nice.
That's the summer before our release in 2022.
Nice. That's really cool. You and your wife have started this whole system, this whole program for veterans that are looking for, what would you say, like a way out of their depression, a way into life?
Something like that, yeah. So for the last, I want to say 12 years, I've been working on my own recovery, mental health from multiple combat deployments and alcohol dependence. During that journey, I've had a lot of ups and downs and have picked up tools along the way to live life on life circumstances. And back in early 2020, prior to the pandemic, I had a near suicide experience, the third one in my life. Wow. The first one was when I was about 19 years old, fresh into the Navy. And I dealt with the loss of a relationship. And I drank heavily back then, as most young sailors do. And so I could kind of understand what was going on there. You know, I ended up seeking help, put the firearm away and got appropriate treatment. The second time was when I asked for help for PTSD and alcohol dependence back in 2011. And one of the first things that they said was I need to start looking for another career beyond the Navy. My identity was shattered. I thought I was doing something good for myself for reasons to preserve my career, my relationship, and my way of life that I had at the time. And so when the first response to asking for help was begin preparing for a new life, I had no more identity. But I trusted the process, trusted what the military was giving to me as tools, and I utilized those tools for the next 10 years. So that when early 2020 came and things were going really, really well in my life, great marriage, business was growing, finishing up my master's degree. One weekend, just one Friday night, I got hit with a deep depression and started planning my death again. And I was very adamant on following through with it. And it was the first time that those thoughts had overtaken me in almost 10 years at that point. But I didn't. I ended up letting people know what was going on, telling them what was going on in my head. And at the time, I was finishing up my master's degree in visual communication, and one of the projects was to come up with a program that would give back to our community, and hence 1 Mile, 1 Veteran was born. I wanted to start teaching people the tools that I had acquired over 10 years so that when a crisis occurs, not if a crisis occurs, but when a crisis does occur, we already know what to do, and we've drilled it.
Let's talk about 1 Mile, 1 Veteran. This is helpful. This is very helpful. Why did you choose to call this 1 Mile, 1 Veteran?
So the idea of 1 Mile, 1 Veteran is to the act of walking, even something as little as 1 mile, takes about 20 to 24 minutes on average, and it's enough to raise our endorphins. It's enough to start elevating our mood through just the body's natural chemicals. Walking a mile or traveling 1 mile, doing light physical work for 20 to 24 minutes is not a hard ask for most people. There's a lot of programs out there, and I love the nonprofits that give veterans an athletic second chance, like Team Red, White, and Blue, Wounded Warrior Project, like all these big, achievement-based organizations that have these sports for veterans to partake in. I love partaking in them. But there's also a lot of us that getting off the couch is hard enough. And so the idea to just go walk a mile, and that's going to make your day just a little bit better, and you can start taking captive the thoughts that are running through your brain in a healthy way. We just want to get people off the couch while listening to our podcast. And then the 1 Veteran aspect is at the end of the episode, we just ask people to reach out. 2 simple steps. Get moving just a little bit, and then reach out to somebody and just have a conversation. You don't need to be in a crisis to make a friend and build a relationship. But then when that crisis does come, you already know that you have somebody that you can call on because you've been calling them regularly. You've picked up that phone on a regular basis. And I know for me in those times of crisis and depression, that phone feels like it's about 1,000 pounds. Like I can never get it up to my ear. But there are some people that picking up that phone is just easy, because calling them and kind of telling them what I'm going through, they're not, the bells and alarms aren't going to go off.
Right.
They're just going to know I'm going through a period.
Yeah.
And I need somebody to just listen to me.
Yeah. That's important. It really is important to have that support, to have that foundation as well. You make a podcast that gives people something that they can adhere to, they can focus on, and you have your 5 pillars. Tell us about the 5 pillars.
Yeah. So part of what I had learned over the last 12 years at this point is are the 5 pillars of health, and it's a more concise whole health model. There are circles out there that have 15, 17 different things that you should be doing to take care of your wholeness. But I've broken them down into 5. I've consolidated them and said, okay, we're going to do physical, mental, spiritual, relational, and professional health.
Right.
When I talk about the physical, that can be anything from the simple act of getting off the couch to doing annual checkups, just to make sure that your body's natural chemicals and blood work is in line.
Yeah.
Because sometimes chronic illnesses that runs in families do creep up, and if we're not doing an annual checkup, we're going to end up with some sort of medical condition down the line that has a serious effect on our overall well-being.
Yeah.
So it's not just about physical exercise. And a lot of people, especially veterans, take it as, oh, I just need to be physically active. It's like, no, you also just have to do regular checkups.
Right.
Let people know, hey, pains, skin changes in skin conditions, appetites, those are all indicators of our overall well-being.
Yeah.
Mental health, one of the really important things for mental health is just being able to talk about what's actually on your mind. You can do that with, a clergy member, with a good friend, somebody that is supportive of you, or you could also do that with a doctor. Yeah. And honestly, for myself, because I struggle with depression and suicidal ideations, I do check in with the doctor every now and then. And I say, hey, doc, this is where my head's been. What do you think? And sometimes I get a clear bill of health and says, hey, check in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You seem like you're doing really well. Other times it's been like, hey, call me next week because we're going through something right now.
Yeah.
So some people feel like, oh, it needs to be an ongoing thing and they're just going to prescribe me a lot of medications.
Yeah.
Other times it's just like, hey, maybe I need medications to get through a certain period.
Yeah.
Or when I'm going to do a certain thing, like if I'm going to go to a concert, maybe I need something for anxiety in that moment so that I can show up to that event.
Yeah.
Nice. When we talk about spiritual, this is the one that was probably the hardest for me in the very beginning because the doctor had asked me like, hey, what's your relationship with God like?
Yeah.
And my initial reaction was to give him the finger and tell him it's none of his business.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a reaction a lot of us get, whether we're angry with the church, with God, with whatever it is.
Yeah.
We don't even want to believe in some sort of being out there.
Right.
I was there. But the one thing that I did need to realize is that I'm not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
There's something greater out there that gives me a deeper purpose. And I think once we start to recognize that we're not the center of the world and that things aren't happening to us and because of us, we can start to get an understanding that whatever it is that we're going through has a solution. Yeah. And it's much bigger than we are.
Nice.
Yeah, and then with relationships, whether that's spouses, whether that's friends, whether that's coworkers, again, starting to build healthy relationships. There's a few gurus out there that talk about, you are the consolidation of your 5 closest people. You're a reflection of the 5 closest people. So if the 5 closest people to you, a bunch of them are complaining about something, you're probably going to complain about a lot of stuff.
Right.
If people don't have cars or are on the verge of homelessness and living paycheck to paycheck, chances are you're going to be living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. Because that's the life that we kind of commit to. So it's really important for us to kind of look out there and evaluate our relationships.
Wow. Yeah.
In a healthy way and say, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean I need to cut ties with the people of my past.
Right.
But I also need to start looking for healthier relationships, people that are going to help me get to the place that I want to be, not because, they have something that they can offer to me, but I want to go and be a part of this group, and we can make that happen regardless of what class we came from. I mean, I grew up dirt floor poor, literally had a hole in my kitchen floor where I could see the ground.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah.
To the point where, we end up owning a $500,000 condo in Hawaii. Like,
Wow.
craziest life change that I'd ever experienced.
And it can happen.
And it can happen for anybody.
Yeah.
It takes work.
It does. It really does.
And
yeah.
it takes a lot of personal sacrifice and dying to oneself. But
Yeah.
all of that is a result of who I surrounded myself with.
It's so important. It's so important. If you're surrounded by people that are drinking, you're going to be a drinker. You know, and if you remove yourself from those elements, you become a better person, or you become the person you choose to become. You know, like I always say about social media, for one of the things, like, not to, but when I'm on social media, you can see a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff comes into your feed. Some of that stuff you don't want to see. If you start to actively think about what you don't want to see and start to say no, 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 start unfollowing things and following the things you do want to see, it's the same thing in life. You just kind of put those things in front of yourself so that you can feel better when you wake up in the morning. You're not getting hit with like news articles that are going to make you feel depressed. It's going to make you feel hopeless and like helpless, And so you start to tailor your day, you start to tailor your personality around those things, and having those people, like you say, those 5 people in your life, think about those people, think about what those people are doing for your mental health. Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard a quote the other day: the common denominator in your problems is you. It doesn't matter where you're at. So if you have a problem at work, you have a problem at home, and you have a problem when you go to the grocery store, let's start looking at what's similar here.
Like, ooh, oh, that's yeah.
So when it comes to relationships, it's about what do I bring to the ground?
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I surrounding myself with the good people, and then doing so, am I adding value to my group? And that's the other thing a lot of people don't do when they're thinking about their workplace either, and the relationships that they have there, because it becomes very transactional at work, right?
Yeah.
Let's get this report done, let's get this project done, and it's just like, well, if you accept a job, a lot of bosses, they want to hire somebody that's going to add value to their business.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just be there to collect a paycheck. And so having this mentality of, I'm coming to serve, right? I'm coming to make this place a better place, and this is the value that I bring, not because I need a job, but because I really want to be here.
Yeah.
And that's where I start to get into even the professional health is, let's say you're doing a job that you're not necessarily passionate about.
Yeah.
But you can find something in your life to be passionate about, whether that's at the workplace or in your home life. So if you're working a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 2 or whatever those hours are, when you go home, do you have something that you're passionate about, whether it be a hobby, a community event, or something like that? Because when you build up these 5 pillars of physical, mental, spiritual, relational, and professional health, you are building it on a very firm foundation where you can rest the rest of your life. And if one of these pillars falls away, guess what? You have other ones to kind of back it up while you rebuild. So when we lose our identity because we're losing a job, or our wife or husband are unfaithful to us, or need to leave, and our family starts to fall apart, or we suffer an accident and are out of commission for 6 months, a year, or permanently.
Yeah.
What else are we able to pull on? What else are we able to draw on? So that we can then rebuild. It's not a give up. It's just like, hey, now this pillar has fallen away. Now I can start rebuilding my physical health. I can start rebuilding relationships in my life, and really do a lot of introspection. And that's what we try to teach, but we don't do it by going on there and lecturing people about our 5 pillars. We have other veterans on there telling their life stories, and they usually fall into one or multiple of these categories by what they've done in their life after service.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how many episodes do you have up now?
I think we just released our 43rd. Is that right?
Nice.
My wife is also my producer. So it's not just a Danny Mayberry doing anything. This is a whole family event that we've committed to. When I talked about the $500,000 condo that we have in Hawaii, we actually sold that.
Oh, wow. Nice.
To fund this for as long as we possibly can, while we get funding from other people, whether that's our Patreon, show sponsors, or other benefactors that want to help support the mission that we're doing. And going around the country and different parts of the world to bring the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran mission to our service members and their supporters.
That's amazing. So where are some of the places that people can support you?
Yeah, so people can support us if they go to Patreon and look up 1 Mile, 1 Veteran. They can go to our website and click 1mile1veteran.com,
Nice.
the number 1 for both of them, and hit support us. Go to our Patreon, and we have anywhere from $5 to $100 of support for monthly contributions. What that gives you is it gives you some bonus content, but also lets you know that you're helping me and my wife take this to the next step, because we want to hire on some other people to the team so that we can get the message even further.
Nice.
You know, one of the reasons that we didn't initially go 501c3 was last year, 2021, December 2021, we lost a really close friend in a sudden accident. He was 51 years old.
Wow.
And was out for a jog in the middle of the morning, bright sunlight.
Yeah.
And he was struck by an electric motorcycle.
Oh, wow. Sad. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and it was very devastating to our entire community.
Wow.
But he was out there doing what he was asked to do.
Yeah.
He was out there changing people's lives for as long as he could, and we kind of saw that as a sign of, okay, we need to launch this soon. And then 6 months later, I came down with a condition that almost paralyzed me in the face and made me go deaf. And so just like, the time to act is now. And for those of you, those people that know, putting together a nonprofit organization takes a lot of energy. It requires boards and a ton of people to kind of get involved in the process. And the growth is slow going. When producing media, as you know, as a content producer, we can make it happen quickly. If we meet the right people, we can end up getting the funds that we need sooner. And so we just started acting right now from our own media company. My wife has been producing television for, I want to say, like 6 years now. She had her first regional Emmy nomination last year.
Nice. Wow. That's
I know,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah.
I have my background in medicine and then public affairs, post-military.
Nice.
And so we're just like, let's take what we're doing, let's do it now. But we also, again, need the support. We need people to contribute financially to help us continue to do this, and then listen to the podcast. Go listen to stories from some of our veterans in the community, because some of them are really, really funny, and some of them are also really, really heartbreaking. And there are those stories of resilience that are in there from a very negative place. But the reality is we all kind of have lives that are like roller coasters. It has its ups and its downs.
It absolutely is.
And our community is so resilient.
Yeah.
And so, 1 Mile, 1 Veteran, the number 1 on both of them. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Patreon, and our website, 1mile1veteran.com.
Now, on your Facebook page, you have a Facebook group?
Yes. So right now we're promoting what we're doing on our podcast on Facebook. Eventually that will become private, just for people that want to share more difficult things that they don't necessarily want to share in a more public setting. But we're keeping it open right now for ease of finding us.
That makes sense,
Because down the line, as we grow, part of my vision over the next 3 to 5 years is to have 1 Mile, 1 Veteran representatives in each state where there's veterans.
Wow, nice.
And it's not that they're doing the podcast, but they're leading community walks. They're encouraging people, hey, come out there and let's have a conversation. Let's share our stories. Let's talk about our week.
I love that.
So that they can then have people that they can call on saying, hey, I know that there's a community. When we started this out in Hawaii, I had a really good friend, not a veteran, have a suicidal crisis within our first 2 weeks of starting 1 Mile, 1 Veteran. He called me up one Friday afternoon, and he just asked if I was available. And I thought it was kind of odd, right? I was like, he's usually not this insistent. And I said, yeah, absolutely. When do you want to meet? What's going on? He goes, it's really important. If we can meet like now, that would be great.
Wow.
And I was available, and he had confided in me that he was having a suicidal crisis at that moment. Something with his career had occurred. and I was able to be there for him. We were able to secure his weapon during the crisis. Some friends were able to come together and make sure that he was on the next path forward. We worked him through it. We taught him just some things that we had learned over the years to help get through moments like that. And now he's a part of a Friday night group that works out at a vet center. And he brings people that have also gone through or are currently going through crises. So like once we start talking about some of the harder stuff, it becomes easier to talk about.
It does, yeah, honestly.
One of the things that I've really appreciated about our community is that, at least the one that we started in Hawaii, is it is a large mixture of veterans and non-veterans. We have, city councilmen supporting what we're doing. We have gym owners supporting what we're doing, realtors, federal workers, and members of the cleargy. Just kind of saying, hey, this is a great resource. Give them a listen. Know that, these hard conversations that we call hard aren't really hard. So I have a great acronym for people that are considering being an ally in the suicidal space, and that's SAVE. Knowing some of the signs and symptoms of suicide. This can be withdrawal. This can be some of the big ones that we recognize of depression. Social isolation, giving away goods, talking about, obsessing about suicide and death. But some of these also don't present themselves, especially within the veteran community, because we learn about them on an annual basis when we're in the service, and so we know what not to portray. And other times those signs and symptoms aren't there. So the next really important part is to ask the question. Are you considering taking your own life? It's okay. Because sometimes if somebody just asks that, you can see the reaction in the face. When somebody is considering taking their own life and they get asked in a very direct way, they have no other option but then to process on whether or not they're actually considering that, and if they're going to say yes or no. It is, they don't even have to ask for help at that point. You are asking them in a very direct way, do you want help? I am here. I am that partner that will help you. I am that person that will be there for you. With the V being validate what they're going through. A lot of the times, unfortunately, especially in the male community, we kind of get really jokey about it. We're just like, oh no, you'll be all right, here, have another beer.
Walk it off. That kind of stuff.
That girl, don't worry about it. It's like, no, validate what they're going through. That sounds like a really hard situation. And that is really real. Not you did it to yourself or just get over it. Within the teens, and people that are not mentally well, we also tend to write them off saying, oh, this is just another episode. This is just a cry for help. Cry for help is really important.
Honestly, because it's a cry for help.
Exactly. So when a 12-year-old daughter says, oh, I'm just going to kill myself, take that seriously. And say, hey, let me validate what you're saying. I hear what you're saying is that you are wanting to take your life. So let's talk about that. Let's find out, instead of getting angry and saying, why would you threaten such a thing? That's a real thing. And so we need to start having those conversations just a little bit more seriously. And then the E comes down to expedite care. And so that could mean calling 911 or 988 for the suicide hotline and getting on the phone. My wife has had to call 988 in the beginning to kind of understand what her role in preventing my suicide would be. And then I've gotten on the phone with them and I've been able to explain to them where my headspace is at to know that whether I'm safe or need to get to a hospital. Other things are doing things like we can to help a friend out by taking their weapons out of their house for the evening. Maybe not encouraging them to drink alcohol that night, taking the alcohol out while they're going through this, because alcohol is a depressant and we don't necessarily need to be more depressed while we're going through a potential crisis. And these are things that we can do as a friend. We don't need to involve authorities at that time, but calling that 988 number is a great way to check just in case you're not sure of what to do.
Now 988 is just
across
like
the board in the U.S.
Just like 911. But 988.
988. So you can text it, you can call it, you can go to the website. and just let them know. And you can also let them know, hey, I have a veteran here with me, and there's other services that are available to veterans. Veterans now going through a suicidal crisis with a recent bill that was passed, going through a mental health crisis can walk into any emergency room in the U.S.
Wow.
With a mental health crisis.
That's important to know.
Yeah, they don't even need to go to the VA anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people may not know that right now. So thank you for that information, because like you said before, giving your life meaning, giving yourself purpose, takes those suicidal ideations, puts them to the side. It's not like they go away, but they're more manageable, if I could say that.
Exactly. One of the things that I used to think about my suicidal thoughts was that it was a sign that something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a big old baby, or just couldn't deal with it, and I needed to suck it up. And when the thoughts recurred, again, I had the same thoughts. Something is wrong with me. I'm created wrong. I'm going to be in this place forever, because it feels like a forever kind of attitude.
Yeah.
What I've come to discover over the years is reoccurring thoughts are reoccurring. They're just going to keep on happening, but we can lessen the severity of how we feel about them. We can start to control a little bit of our feelings. It's not to say that I still don't suffer with depression on a regular basis, or, you know, if I overexert myself or don't do appropriate stress management in my life, I'm not going to experience these feelings. But it's really helped me kind of navigate through and say, oh, okay, this isn't a bad thing. This depression, these suicidal thoughts aren't a bad thing in my life. It's just an indicator that maybe I need to take a rest, or maybe I need to go spend some time with a friend and be a part of my community. It's kind of almost an indicator. And then, you know, when we had started this, our objective was, if we only end up saving one life as a result of this work that we're doing, then our mission will have been met. We would have done what we were asked to do. And, you know, we've met that, and we've gone beyond that. You know, there are people right now that are walking and listening to our podcast as part of their daily routine, and they're re-listening to the same episodes over and over again, because it helps them feel connected. It helps them then take what they're learning and know, hey, I can pass this on to the next person. You know, for the work that her and I are doing, we're doing passion work. I love talking about hard stuff. We could talk about anything. We could debate about anything, even if it's, you know, very difficult. And I like thought games, and I like talking about things that challenge us. I've always just been that person. So we're doing something that we're very, very passionate about. What's amazing is all the incredible people out there that are doing work right in their community, and we really want to also highlight them. You know, people that are taking an interest in the people around them. There's a quote out there that says that, like, if you want to change, I think it was Mother Teresa, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Wow. Nice.
And that love starts to spread within your community. You know, and that's all we're trying to remind people is, you don't need some big nebulous organization to save your life. You don't need some miracle cure that's going to come out of the nothing. You know, those frustrations that veterans have with the VA and other organizations because they're not getting the benefits, those are very frustrating. But a solution, a really simple solution, is connect with another veteran. Find out what they're doing. Start to contribute to your community. There's so many organizations out there in the world doing good work in their community that are bringing life and security to those around them. And unfortunately, they're just not getting enough attention, because we like talking about the bad stuff. We like talking about the problems, and we don't like talking about the solutions.
Drama sells.
Exactly. Drama sells.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for being on this podcast, for talking about your journey towards this. One last thing, you gave us a good quote. I really like that quote. We usually like to leave people with like a leadership tip or something like that, or some kind of thing, or maybe it's a life lesson or something like that. And you can take a moment if you need it. But could you leave the audience with something, maybe something that you learned, maybe something that you're striving to, or some type of a lesson that maybe that could close this out?
Yeah, the one that's currently coming to my mind, and I think it'll resonate with a lot of the veteran audience out there, is one of the things that we learn early in leadership is you never bring a problem without bringing a solution. So whether you're in a workplace, whether you are with your family and you have strife of some sort, seek out the solution to the problem that you're currently experiencing and then talk about it from a way of how can we make this better versus talking about how this is a horrible situation and there's no solution. Because that solution that you end up finding, because they're out there, there's solutions to every problem, will give you enough hope to continue striving forward.
I love that. I love that. I think that people lose sight of that often when you're in the heat of the drama, whatever it is that you're in. You lose sight of it because you just want to like focus on all the negativity in it and not the solutions, like you said there. Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. Thank you very much. One more time for our audience. Just let them know where they can find you, where they can support you.
Absolutely. I would ask anybody listening, please go to our Patreon page, 1 Mile, 1 Veteran, the number 1 on both of those, and become a Patreon and receive some of that bonus content. Begin following us on Apple and Spotify podcasts, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at 1 Mile, 1 Veteran.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you hit the little bell too. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.